starting order for the third and final Junior Max qualifying heat, Groups A and C, here in Kristianstad. So on the front row of the grid, it is the 317 of Mike van Vogt from the Netherlands, with countryman Danny van Dijk in the 356 alongside on the front row. Suleiman Zanfari in the 352 has Mads Ries in the 399 alongside for company, with Chris Hanen and Tuukka Tapponen 312 and 336 on row 3. Then it's the Australian of James Wharton with the Belgian of Jules Castro 313 and 311 on row 4, with Dante Rapagne and Guilherme de Oliveira from Portugal rounding out row 5. Linus Henson and Gianni Andrisani row 6. Roderick Picker and Herbert Andreas row 7. Viggo Hjorvard and Mattis Malinovskis row 8. Rasmus Valsten and Vincent France row 9. Malte Adolfsson Bartevit row 10. Samuli Maltsami and Ralph Winkel row 11. Olli Pilka and Philip Norman row 12. And rounding out the 26 strong, it's Sofia Zanfari and Stig Riholt. So 26 competitors set to get into battle. And so the top 28 places that will automatically allow them to qualify for the two finals tomorrow will be based on the two scores in their respective qualifying heats. So the drivers will have competed by the end of the day in 2 qualifying heats out of 3, with their scores going towards their starting order. Of course, those not able to proceed in the top 28 will be put into the second chance final, as we have one kart, I think, stricken. So it looks like we're going to have 25 karts, and it looks like, I think that might be one of the Zanfaris. It looks like to be the 354 as the rev rise, but full start it is. So but the timer has started ticking away, but I would think that is going to be, yep, that is a confirmed full start, second one of the day. And I think Van Vogt was absolutely right with the signal saying, oh yeah, one more formation lap. So Van Vogt is definitely on his A game, and he is, because of the fact that he is leading this championship at this early stage. So now it's time to get into formation once again. Top. But they do have to slow down, and they are not quite getting into formation, with some karts going 3 abreast into the penultimate couple of corners. So race control and the race director telling them to slow down. Revs rise, and we are off and racing. And the 399 was trying to get the nose stuck in. That was Mads Ries, who's gone onto the outside, which ends up being the inside of turn number 2. So leaders now coming through into turn number 5. So it looks like Van Vogt is leading ahead of Van Dijk, as there are some changes for position, and I'm wondering, has Van Dijk actually lost out in the process? And there are changes and a bit of barging going into the final, towards the final sector. So I'm wondering if Jules Castro looks to be one of those that is getting a bit racy, and more than just that, probably more than just a bit robust from the Belgian. Picker is in there as well. He's trying to battle, but I think he's just been overtaken going into the final corner, which I think is pretty much the case. 399 Mads Ries is up into 4th place. Hanen now up into 3rd. And there's been one change, which is Linus Henson, I think I've just seen, has dropped down the order from the 11th all the way through to 23rd position. So Zanfari, I think Tapponen and Walston are also missing in action, or did they even take the start? As looks like there is there is changes, because Chris Hanen is fighting tooth and nail with Holland's very own Danny van Dijk, who has lost out, but looks like Mads Ries has gone and jumped up into 2nd, as there's a bit of contact between Van Dijk and Hanen. So the front Nassau plate of Van Dijk hit the side pod of Hanen's kart, but both of them relatively unscathed. So Van Voort continues to lead. Now it's the 399 of Ries. Hahnen third. Wharton now up into fourth position. Zanfari also goes with. Van Dijk now down into sixth, ahead of Castro, De Oliveira, Lapagne and Adolfsen. Herbert Andreas now up into 11th position. And also Stig Richolt, who started pretty much from way down the order, is now up into 19th, obviously with 3 carts not even taking the start. But with all the battling behind him, it's allowing Mike Van Voort from the Netherlands to just quite literally go, I've got a nice clear track and I haven't really got anyone fighting me behind. But Chris Hahnen has had other ideas and has just got past Mads Ries for position. So it's Van Voort that leads. Hahnen in second as Wharton is trying to go with Mads Ries going into turn number 1. The Australian tried to do the dummy, tried to go to the outside and slot back in into turn number 1, but I think Mads Ries saw that coming. So Van Voort continues to, has extended his lead to 2.7 seconds already. And we still have around 3 at 3. Oh, and there's one kart going incredibly, was going incredibly slow there. I'm wondering, is that Jules Castro? There's 2 karts off. Oh, that was very, very hairy indeed. That was very gnarly indeed. 2 karts went wide coming out of turn number 6. So someone's obviously been pushed aside and someone has had to take avoiding action. So meanwhile, De Oliveira now, I think, is up into 5th. So the Portuguese driver is also making strides up the field and is closing on the back bumper of James Wharton from Australia as they head down into turn number 1, now into turn 2. Now into turn 3 they go. So Mike Van Voort has a 2.729 lead over second placed Chris Hahnen, who's got Mads Ries, James Wharton, Guilherme de Oliveira, Suleiman Zanfari. Danny Van Dijk has made some sort of recovery back up into 7th position, ahead of Dante Rapagne, Andreas and Adolfsen rounding out the top 10. But there is more drama. There is more drama down just off the approach into turn number 5. So yellow flags are being waved. Oh, so full course yellow, it looks to be here. Drivers being told to slow down, full course. Yep, full course yellow conditions here in Kristianstad. So this will now rebunch the field up with 2 minutes and 7 on the clock to go. And looks like the casualty, unfortunately, might be either the 326 of De Wit or Norman in the 334. So 90 seconds plus an additional lap to go. So they can't. So looks like there is another flag being brandished as well, whether it may be referenced slippery surface too. So whether there's been an issue with one of the carts from a technical perspective. So if fluids have been leaked onto the track, it is definitely the wise call of race control to put us under full course yellow conditions. And yellow flags are out at every single corner. So I think we are going to finish this race under yellow flag conditions. Yep, so slippery surface flags being brandished on the digi flag just by the starting gantry. So the whole field has just been instructed to slow down. So they can't go at racing speed. No one can overtake. The positions will, I think, pretty much. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So 1 lap to go, and it is going to be yellow flag conditions. So unfortunately, the battle that we were... Now, the thing was, because the incident happened quite close to the end of the race, I think it was definitely the wisest decision possible by race direction and race control to finish the race under yellow flag conditions. So it's just going to be a mere formality now for Mike van Voort from the Netherlands, who will finish ahead of countryman Chris Hanen to make it a Dutch 1-2 here in the last of the qualifying heats for the juniors. So here we go, round the final couple of corners. The field is being led by the Netherlands' very own Mike van Voort, and the checkered flag waves for the Dutchman, and Chris Hanen brings it home as a Dutch 1-2 ahead of Mads Ries, James Wharton, Guilherme de Oliveira, Suleiman Zanfari, Danny van Dijk, Herbert Andreas, Dante Rapagni and Ralph Winkel rounding out the top 10. So let's just run you through the finishing order for that particular race, which had to be, I think, was the wisest call possible to leave it under yellow flag conditions. So Mike van Voort from the Netherlands takes the win ahead of Chris Hanen, with Mads Ries in third, James Wharton in fourth ahead of Guilherme de Oliveira, Suleiman Zanfari, Danny van Dijk, Herbert Andreas, Dante Rapagni and Ralph Winkel rounding out the top 10, with Pilka, France, Malinovskis, Adolfsson, Andrisani, Marzani, Picker, Rielt, Castro, Hjorvard and Henson being the last of the 21 classified finishers, with De Wit, Norman, Tapponen, Volsten and Zanfari not even finishing the race.